Chapter 27, Remembering Bryn. So she would go from table to table collecting uneaten bread from students twice every week? Lillian questioned with emphasis in reference to Bryn. Yep, she would make me come sit out here on this bench with her. We fed ducks every Tuesday and every Thursday. Sometimes Gina would come too, but Gina was given a choice. I wasn't. Earl, did she tell you that she wanted to be a vet? Yeah, she told me the first day we met. I had to feed the animals and pet the animals with her. She was so bossy. I never was an animal lover. My only pets were a couple of birds. No, we had this one dog. When I was little, I liked him. Puppy, Lillian chimed in. Right, his name was Puppy. Earl smiled big and agreed with Lillian. Earl, where else did y'all hang out? I miss her so much. I can't ride Pancake anymore. It feels like I'm doing something to hurt Bryn because I still have my life and my horse, and I can still ride and live and breathe. How can I keep living if my child can't? It's so hard to catch my breath sometimes when I think of her in my private moments. Yeah, I kind of know what you mean, Earl verified. Those are some of the same feelings I have when I think of Bryn. It feels unfair that I know we're siblings and she never knew, and that I get to choose to be part of her family if I want to. When I gave you up, Earl, the option was always there that I could see you or take you back or just know you were alive and could have a life. But with Bryn, the permanence of it is stifling sometimes. There's a hopelessness I live with daily. That's the difference. With you, I lived with a hope that I could see you thrive, even if from afar, Lillian divulged. Earl changed the subject. We spent our fair share of time in the library, at the university center shooting pool, and at the gym. Have you seen that girl do leg presses? I tried to push her to run track. She wouldn't. Even you wouldn't have been able to have gotten Bryn to run track. She resented that sport because it injured her knee and her ankle. Bryn ran track all her life, with medals, newspaper clippings, and documentation of set records to prove it. She was a gazelle on the track, a gorgeous runner. She could long jump, high jump, sprint, and receive a baton in a relay race like none other, losing no time in the process. Couldn't ask her to do any distance over 400 yards, though. She'd faint every time. It was crazy. I missed that little nugget. You called her Nugget? Yeah, she was precious like gold, shined like it, was beautiful like it, and she was tiny and compact like a nugget. Earl sat peacefully and quietly with thoughts of his sister, best friend, classmate, with a catatonic grin on his face that turned to tears running down his cheeks. Lil glanced at him and said, Why'd you have to start that up? I hold that in for my alone time. Lady, stop trying to be so hard and tough, trying to control all the folks around you. You're human. Cry if you're sad, smile if you're happy, be sensitive with Nancy if she needs a hug or kind words. Heck, you might like living a lot more. You might be able to forgive yourself for the death of your child that you didn't cause. Lillian looked up at Earl and asked, Have you forgiven me? No, I haven't. But I'm getting there, I'm working my way through to forgiveness. It's going to be a slow process. You haven't told me the whole story yet. Tell me more about my father. Tell me about how you met and married Mr. Vince and adopted Brian. Earl struggled with fixing his mouth to say the name Brian in the context of him being Lil's son. Another thing I'm quite curious about, how you manage to come stalk me as often as it seems. Fooling an old lady nanny is one thing, but to leave town alone as a married woman with 3 children is unfathomable, especially back in the day. Lil chuckled a bit. Are you implying that Vince is henpecked? I didn't even remotely imply that he's henpecked. Is that what you think in this is the case? Do you consider him henpecked? Because the only implication in my statement was that some of the time you were stalking me was before women's lib became an accepted way of life. Regardless of what you meant, Earl, I've been enjoying my time on this campus and wanted to spend the last few moments of my visit talking about Bryn. I promise I will get to each and every detail about everything you want to know. I promise, Earl. Step up onto this limb. Let me see what you got, lady. Earl gestured for Lillian to step up onto a branch that was so low to the ground that she could easily have placed her foot up, but she didn't. Don't tell me you're embarrassed. You have on a school spirit shirt like Bryn would have worn, and blue topsiders just like Bryn's. That should be embarrassing. They are clearly not your style. You're the uptown fancy type of lady. If you're not in for the whole Bryn experience, go home. Bryn didn't break rules, but she was fearless. She wasn't afraid of trying anything. That girl was all the way live. This tree was one that she conquered. She would start by stepping onto this low-lying branch and ascend until she would get way up there. Earl pointed to a level that made Lil question herself for wanting to experience a day in the life of her daughter. It had been years since Lillian had climbed a tree or taken a risk. She no longer rode her horse for several reasons, but one reason was clear to her at that moment. She no longer trusted her own horse after Bryn's accident. She didn't trust her own self after she lost her child. Lillian thought she allowed it to happen. She thought she should have prevented it somehow. That fearlessness Earl spoke of to describe Bryn was once dynamic inside Lillian, too. Lillian took hold of Earl's hand, closed her eyes, stepped up, and whispered, "There." Earl admired her for taking the first step, but egged her to continue. "Come on, go higher." She found her strength in his voice. Lil started climbing the tree. The level she reached was nowhere near what Bryn could have done, but she surpassed the level she would have reached in the mental state she had been in earlier that day. Earl guided his birth mother down the branches one by one with a slow, consistent vocal tone and a tightly gripped handhold. His patience with her made her feel like he was beginning to soften toward her. It made her hopeful that they may become close again one day. It made her feel like a mother being cared for by her son. She placed her feet firmly onto the bone-dry earth and told him, "Thank you for guiding me to the security of level ground. You know, there's no way you could have kept the inevitable from happening to Bryn, don't you?" Earl consoled. "What are you saying, Earl?" "You're not a bad mother or a bad person because Bryn was thrown from a horse that you bought her. People ride horses. People fall from horses. It happens. It happened to Bryn. We can neither bring her back nor change the scenario of her fate in any way. Forgive yourself, lady." She began to sob a little and relied on Earl's shoulder. Earl gave her a quick pat on her back. with one hand. He was obviously not ready to be hugged by or give a hug to this lady. Earl stepped back and asked, "Aren't you the same lady who had the gall for a decade and a half to go to a town where there are many people who know you and stalk the child that you gave away for who knows what reason?" Lillian snapped out of her tears and back into control mode. She totally wanted to laugh at what he had said, but assumed it to be inappropriate at that moment. His words did lighten the somber tone. She did offer a response, though. The worst part of it was the long black wig with bangs. That was the disguise I would wear. Oh, and eyeglasses with no prescription. I even dressed differently. I wore hippie-style clothes. Nancy's clothes, Earl interrupted. Lillian's throat was consumed with an outburst of laughter as she looked at her son sideways, thinking how much she enjoyed his curt sense of humor. She was also impressed with how wise he could be and observant he was of the world and the people around him. She wondered how much he knew his artsy, sensitive sister Nan. She wondered if he knew how remarkable she was at giving great male haircuts. Nancy was a creative stylist and could do female hairstyles well, mostly avant-garde styles. But dude hair was where Lillian thought Nancy flourished with talent. She wondered if Earl knew he hopelessly needed one of those precision haircuts right now. She peeked over at Earl's hair and estimated that he hadn't had a haircut since before Bryn died. Maybe he was on a haircut strike, using his hair growth as a way of mourning the loss of his best friend. He went from tapered tightly in December or sporting a full-fledged bob on this April afternoon. He could push it behind his ears and all. His wavy curl combo was becoming unruly for Lillian's taste. She dared not mention Earl's hair, though. One battle at a time, she thought. Lillian continued, "It blows my mind that people can really wear bangs, or wigs for that matter. Wigs hurt my head because they are so overly snug and too hot. Bangs tickle. Bangs don't tickle a sweet wispy tickle, like the tickle of delicate little raindrops. I like that sort of tickle. They don't tickle like being gut tickled either. Being gut tickled is a form of torture my bladder can't handle. I never could understand why gut tickling naturally makes you laugh. You're literally laughing through torture. Bangs tickle the way it feels when your shirt tag is bothering you and you cut it from your shirt to give you relief, except you can't relieve yourself by cutting the bangs because that's how you got in the fix to begin with, by cutting the bangs. Nonetheless, I used a wig with bangs, eyeglasses, and hippie clothes as my disguise, and it was effective. It is certainly easier not having to do that to see you. It's also been refreshing to have visited with you consistently over the past few months. I believe that sharing the story with you in pieces over time will be more digestible for you. You know that it was extra creepy that you stalked me, right, lady? Call it what you want to, but I was able to see my son." Earl smiled and replied, "I understand that you're tired and have a drive ahead of you. Let's meet soon because I still have so many unanswered questions. It's difficult to answer all the questions in our short visits." "Okay, I finish this semester next month. Can you maybe stay in Pecan Grove for a few days so you can tell me a bunch of stories over those few days? It's a pain in the butt waiting until I see you to hear about the past." And my daddy refuses to tell me what he calls your story. Bobby loves us and is enjoying that we are in contact. When Ben first died, and after you were first adopted, he often insisted that we all move to the Grove as a family, you, your sisters, and myself. Earl shook his head in confusion. Yeah, it's all mind-boggling, but I know and trust my dad, and I'm learning you. There have to be there have to be logical circumstances around this situation in order for him to have supported it. With you, I'm still convinced it's just a control thing. Prove me wrong, lady. I'll see you next month, Earl. Bye for now. Bye. See ya.